Here's the second we're gonna do. My mentor, Vincent Price.
I'm Vincent Price. What unearthly horror did that girl gaze upon?
Vincent was a presence.
3/4 of my family have fallen into madness.
When he was evil, he was evil.
You would each be tied in a prescribed fashion.
And then, as soon as I said cut, there was old Vincent again, you know.
I love this boy. Vincent had great style as a person.
Dance with me, Brandon.
He was an intellectual. He was an art critic.
Art doesn't necessarily have to be dead serious.
And he had a wicked sense of humor.
Nothing can stop us now.
I don't think I've ever met anybody quite as interesting as my father.
The ghosts are waiting, so won't you join me?
In a career spanning half a century, Vincent Price charmed audiences in period pictures and sophisticated dramas, and thrilled them in the popular horror films which made him America's most beloved master of the macabre. But off-camera, Price was the antithesis of his spooky European image. A witty, down-to-earth Midwesterner, he delighted in a wide variety of interests. Actor and art patron, Vincent Price was a modern Renaissance man. Vincent Leonard Price Jr. was born in St. Louis, Missouri on May 27, 1911, into a prosperous, community-oriented family. His father, Vincent Price Sr., was the president of the National Candy Company and a prominent member of the St. Louis Chamber of Commerce. Mother Marguerite was a strong-willed woman who taught at the progressive elementary school she herself had helped to establish. Like his older brother and sisters, Vincent displayed an early appreciation of music and drama, and at 4 years old made a memorable theatrical debut as a water sprite in a playlet put on by neighborhood children. But it was the fantastic villains he saw in such popular silent horror films as De Golem and John Barrymore's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde that captured his imagination.
He was so excited about this movie that he came home and spent hours in front of the mirror, making up as best he could to emulate this awful characterization that John Barrymore had done.
Also capturing young Vincent's imagination was a growing interest in fine art. The precocious 12-year-old began his own collection in 1923, purchasing an original Rembrandt etching for the princely sum of $37.50.
And he put $5 down and paid off the rest on a weekly basis for months, which he said created outrageous deprivation for a 12-year-old boy.
By his junior year of high school, Vincent Price had matured into a handsome and gregarious young man. A less than dedicated student, he was eager to explore the world beyond his hometown.
St. Louis was a very international city. At the time that he was born, it was the 4th largest city in the United States. There were Italians, French, there was a big German population, and so it created in him this sort of interest and fascination with things foreign, and he had this fixation from the time he was, in his early teens to go to Europe by himself, and so he just had this desire to go places.
That summer, the 17-year-old set off for Europe on a tour of the major capitals. As he marveled at the masterpieces in the great museums of Paris, Rome, and Madrid, art appreciation became a passion. In the fall of 1929, Vincent entered Yale, the alma mater of his father and brother. An English major, he also relished courses in art history and sang with the Yale Glee Club.
I think a lot of time, too, was spent horsing around and having a good old time with his buddies.
Price often starred in his classmates' amateur movies. Despite an Ivy League degree, jobs were hard to come by when Price graduated from Yale in 1933 during the Depression. He accepted a teaching position at Riverdale School on the Hudson in New York, but after a year elected to further his own studies at the prestigious Courtauld Institute in London. While working on his master's thesis, Price fell in love with the theatre, seeing John Gielgud's acclaimed Hamlet nearly a dozen times. That inspiration led him to pursue a secret dream.
There was a private theater club in London called The Gate, and they were doing a play called Chicago, which was sort of a gangster kind of thing. Somebody said, oh, why don't you try out? You'd be perfect, you're an American. And he got the part because he could walk and chew gum at the same time, because gum was sort of a new thing in London.
Academia would be replaced once and for all when he landed the male lead in The Gate's next production. Victoria Regina depicted the story of Queen Victoria's long reign and enduring romance with her German cousin Albert of Saxe-Coburg. At 6'4" tall with wavy blonde hair, Vincent was the image of the handsome prince consort. When the production was brought to America a few months later as a showcase for Broadway's own queen, Helen Hayes, Price came with it. Victoria Regina opened in New York at the Broadhurst Theatre on December 26, 1935.
It was unheard of. Victoria Regina made the cover of Time magazine, and Price was, in his words, catapulted to stardom when he was only 24 years old and had basically no acting experience whatsoever. He was on Broadway opposite the most famous actress of the time, and I think he pinched himself every night. His parents certainly did.
His mother was thrilled. She could hardly believe it. You know, her son had ended up an actor on Broadway. They made scrapbooks for him. They followed his every move. They subscribed to Stage magazine so they could keep up with what was going on.
For 2 years, Price honed his acting skills in Victoria Regina. But when the play went on tour, Vincent stayed in New York. Attracted by an offer from 22-year-old actor and director Orson Welles, Price joined the fledgling Mercury Theatre Company.
It was a coup for the Mercury to get an actor who had scored such an enormous success. But we welcomed Vincent in Shoemaker's Holiday, which required him to wear a period costume of Elizabethan nature, particularly a pair of tights. And Vinny had very long legs, which combined with cod pieces would serve to increase our matinee business enormously.
One of Price's Mercury Theatre leading ladies was herself a stage star, descended from a great American thespian family. Edith Barrett had played Price's lover in Summer Stock in 1936, and their real-life romance culminated in a society wedding on April 23, 1938.
She was really what he thought of as an actress. That he thought they would be this great theatrical couple, this Lunton Fontanne kind of couple.
Hollywood had been beckoning ever since Price took Broadway by storm. That year, the actor signed a contract with Universal Pictures.
He loved the Hollywood thing. You know, he was a starstruck guy. So there he was going to a potluck at Joan Crawford's house, and he was meeting all these glamorous people. He loved that aspect of it.
Price made his film debut opposite popular leading lady Constance Bennett in the screwball comedy Service Deluxe.
Say, what's the big idea?
Were you talking to me?
Look. Just look, that's all I want you to do.
Is that your hat?
That was my hat. You knocked it off with that thing.
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Oh.
Well, I guess there's only one thing for me to do.
Well, that's a great help.
But doesn't it make us even?
Even? Mine was an original Lily Lachey from Paris.
Well, mine was an original Nobby shot from Schenectady.
Oh.
Public and critics alike hailed Vincent Price as the screen's newest matinee idol, and he was immediately cast in 4 more films. But despite positive reviews, the 28-year-old actor was dissatisfied with the one-dimensional parts Universal handed him. In 1940, Price left the studio and signed a 7-year contract with 20th Century Fox. He was cast in small but rewarding roles in 2 period pictures, Brigham Young and Hudson's Bay.
You will lead my people, even as Moses led the children of Israel, across the wilderness. Oh, Lord, my God.
However, he took the law into his own hands. He administered the sentence of death to one of my loyal subjects, and he shall be hanged for it. Very idea, going around shooting my subjects, and without my consent.
The actor's personal life received a boost in August of that year when his son, Vincent Barrett Price, was born.
Vincent Price adored being a parent. He doted on the boy. And something very special that they shared were visits to the amusement park. Price, of course, was just a big kid himself, and they would get their handwriting analyzed and their weights guessed and eat cotton candy and go on what Price called the roller coaster. And it was a very special father-son thing to him.
Just as he was becoming an important member of Fox's roster, Price took a huge professional gamble. A clause in his film contract permitted him to take time off for stage work, and he returned to Broadway for the starring role as a suave murderer in the psychological thriller Angel Street. It was December 1941. But as Angel Street opened on the Great White Way, the Japanese Imperial Air Force decimated the American Navy at Pearl Harbor. Amid the real-life horrors of World War, the 30-year-old Price created a character who echoed the fascist leaders. A charismatic, clever man with murderous self-confidence. The play was a huge hit. Audiences actually hissed at Price. The actor loved it.
And Price said he had found his niche. For the first time, Price understood this curious, compelling attraction of evil. He had a real affinity, to get at the